Disclaimer, this video is entirely satirical and not meant to be taken seriously. It is merely a parody meant to ridicule the morons who genuinely believe in this conspiracy. This video is solely entertainment, therefore I'm not violating any of YouTube's misinformation policies. Thank you, and remember, my channel is based on love, not hate.
Bro, of course it's flat, but you can't come out and say that publicly. Here's the real question. Why do people want to believe it is? Who cares what shape the Earth is?
You went on a podcast and you said the Earth, you believe the Earth was flat. Do you actually, do you want to reel that in, or you still believe the Earth is flat?
You know what, you've always tried to come back, take the statement back, but
yeah, but
on that podcast,
flat.
I was just really like, man, what's going on within our world? And just a whole bunch of truth and conspiracy. I was just like, whoa, this is too much for me. And then I come out and say that, and then, whoo, the reaction it got.
Yeah, because
in order for you to even take this conspiracy seriously, you have to put yourself in the shoes of people who already believe it. It seems at some point we stopped questioning ideas and started labeling people as crazy. All the information we receive about space and planetary objects comes mainly from NASA, and you could argue SpaceX too with the recent Artemis mission, but for the most part, mainly NASA. NASA literally means to deceive in Hebrew, and a lot of people claim the logo is the forked tongue of a serpent. Does that remind you of anything? Anyways, let's dismiss all that and keep in mind that all photos of planets, stars, and space in general are given to you in majority by this one company, and a very small portion of the rest are given by government space agencies. All of these images are composite images, meaning we have never gotten a full photo of the Earth. Zoom in on most photos of the Earth and you will see cloud formations repeat several times. Not only are they CGI, but majority of photos are taken with a fisheye lens camera, which gives photos a circular appearance. The budget for NASA is literally more than $100 million per day. NASA was founded by Nazis with the help of Walt Disney. If you don't believe me, search up Operation Paperclip. The founder of NASA, Werner von Braun, has Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone. A biblical verse, the original lines before it was edited, is "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork." The Earth apparently tilts on an axis of 66.6 degrees. The speed the Earth orbits the Sun is approximately 66.6 thousand miles an hour. Everything we've been taught is a lie. A lot of huge minds on the internet are secret flat earthers. Andrew Tate is actually a leaked flat earther.
I follow all the flat earth pages.
Yeah, so, okay. I mean, it's not flat.
You're a globe-tard.
You're a globe-tard. You think this isn't flat.
It's not.
Is the world round?
Yes, it's a globe.
Globe-tard.
Alright, so how's it flat then? Prove to me it's flat.
Look outside.
I see the curve.
He knows he's shit.
I do, I see the curve.
Tell him more proof that the world's flat.
More proof. Did you know that not once in the history of space travel ever has any astronaut panned his camera around 360 degrees? Not once. Why don't they?
What do you mean?
It's all fake, it's all
Studios.
manipulated
Studios, yeah.
images, yeah.
If you were at 40,000 feet in altitude, you should see a curve. The word horizon comes from the word horizontal. You know what does curve though? Rockets when they're supposedly leaving orbit. This leads me to the moon landing hoax, another massive conspiracy most people don't even associate with the shape of the Earth. Reportedly directed by Stanley Kubrick, people have pointed out that there are no stars in the sky, that the American flag was somehow waving, and that lighting equipment is reflected on the visor of the astronauts.
I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon,
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. See, you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
On top of that, they claim that all tapes of the original landing were lost. This is footage of the first time humanity went to the moon. It's not some old mixtape laying around on a cassette. We still have sculptures from ancient Egypt and Greece, but not tapes made 50 years ago. Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon. What is Neil A spelled backwards? On top of that, aside from the recent Artemis mission, which for some reason didn't go to the moon but just around it, we apparently destroyed the technology to go back.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
When you said that just now, did it sound stupid to you?
Anyways, I digress. Speaking of the moon, you can fit the continents in the craters of the moon. It's an identical reflection. But apparently, the moon is constantly revolving, according to science. The sun and moon are likely the same size, two sources of light that serve different purposes. Because during eclipses, how is it that they perfectly intersect? The North Star and most constellations haven't deviated an inch off the sky in thousands of years. They never intersect, yet everything in the heliocentric model is not only revolving but rotating at the same time. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong's father were both Freemasons. This is not a conspiracy, you can literally search it up. Now let's talk about science. Most scripture agrees God created the world, and by extension, the universe. However, most scientists agree the Big Bang created the universe, and then Einstein came up with gravity. These are both just theories, the same way that flat Earth is a theory. So gravity, and I'm not making this up or trying to make science look stupid, this is literally just what the theory of gravity is. That water defies physics and sticks to the Earth. Space by definition means no atmosphere, so how can you have a pressurized system in the vacuum of space? So we are taught that everything came from nothing, yet the spiritual explanation of a creator is supposedly the crazy idea. Einstein himself once said the Earth is an observable, motionless plane. The actual reason objects fall to the ground is not because of gravity, but because they are denser than the medium surrounding them, which is air. This is why helium balloons rise. This is why giant cargo ships do not sink to the bottom of the ocean. For most of human history, almost all human culture and religion speak of a flat Earth or firmament, and up until the 1900s, around the same time the birth rate of our population exploded, along with science becoming mainstream, the globe is a fairly new concept. So how does Wi-Fi and cellular data work? The theory posits that all of it is done through triangulation towers and underground sea cables. Almost all pictures of satellites, just like space images, are completely CGI. You may think that's ridiculous, but if cellular is done through satellites, then why do we lose connection in the mountains? Now let's get biblical. In the first chapter of the King James Edition, particularly Genesis 1:6, it states, God created the firmament and separated the waters above from the waters below. If you guys search up Operation Fishbowl, which was a part of the larger Operation Dominic literally meaning of the Lord, they tried to blow open the dome. You can't talk about this theory without talking about the ice wall. No, not the one from Game of Thrones, but Antarctica. The theory suggests that it's not a continent, but a giant wall of ice surrounding the planet. The United Nations logo is the flat Earth map. In 1959, 12 nations signed a peace treaty to not allow anyone to go into Antarctica. You can't explore the continent by yourself unless you go on a paid tour. It's literally the only place on Earth you're not allowed to go. And planes never fly over it. Okay, so let's forget everything I just said, and let's just observe the current state of the world. The things we place value on is mainly materialism. Consumerism is what runs pretty much all of North America. Really, it's about sex, which is no longer sacred, but an achievement for men and something casual instead of special for women. People like myself who practice celibacy are rare. Most are either incels or involved in hookup culture. Both of those frameworks of viewing sex are fairly damaging to society. So they are clearly promoted for a reason. Money is valued more than God these days. That's not an outlandish statement, that's just facts because people aren't living religious lifestyles. And that's fine, that's not what this video is about. If you live in a first world country, you can't really go anywhere or look at a screen without eventually seeing an advertisement that's trying to sell you something. So we have no depth to our spirits because we're so easily controlled by our surface level desires. I'm a rapper, and if you look at hip hop, which is now the most popular genre, around the same time gangster rap became mainstream is the same time prison systems began filling up pretty quickly. And not even just hip hop, but music in general glorifies alcohol and prescription drugs. However, psilocybin, something that grows out of the ground, commonly known as magic mushrooms, which has numerous studies about its therapeutic effects, still remains illegal in the vast majority of countries. Your phone is literally listening in on you at this point and showing you everything it thinks you will purchase. 10 years ago, if you searched up flat Earth online, you would actually find videos that support the theory. But now, the information highways have been flooded with debunking propaganda. Why would so much effort be put into debunking something that is clearly just an insane conspiracy? And if you think you're crazy for just considering a conspiracy, of course, you're not going to look deeper into it. You want to know what's really crazy though? It's supposedly the most ridiculous theory ever, yet it is the most banned topic in algorithmic history. Finally, let's talk about what this all boils down to. What would the motivation be for a psyop of this scale? I'll put it like this. When we're monkeys flying through space on a giant rock, even though it's the most ridiculous thing, it somehow makes sense to people. Science gives us the explanation that we're not really here for any particular purpose, but rather a freak chance of a collection of atoms and molecules, and our hyper-animal intelligence resulted from Darwinism. I mean, an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. Nothing is really stopping another giant disaster from wiping out our own species. We're just on a rock flying through space. As Stephen Hawking famously said, an expanding universe does not require a creator. It's very easy to feel insignificant and not feel any sense of divine purpose when you accept this model of the universe, because any sense of infinity is attributed to space matter. But on a flat Earth with the firmament, as stated in most religious scripture, suddenly we matter. The Earth becomes so much more valuable, because it's not just a random planet. There's a creator watching over us. Think about the moon and the sun. They don't know who you are. They exist for all organisms in this world. But what if they did know who you were? What if everything in this world was designed just for you? When you believe existence was created, you have purpose. You're no longer just a coincidental speck of dust in the universe. The best way to conquer a population isn't to restrain them with physical chains, because you can enslave the body, but eventually the spirit will rebel. But rather to create as much conflict in between the masses as you can, and have them obsess over material items that don't really matter to their existence. Enslave the mind, and the body will follow. I mean, the Earth grows plants out of the ground that we can eat. Why do we go to 5-star restaurants to spend $100 on one dinner? Let's not sugarcoat it, it's because we want people to think we're a big deal. So we'll enslave ourselves for 40 years. The system has trained humanity perfectly to consume as much as possible, which benefits the system greatly because we're all effectively cattle being farmed for profit. When an individual's will is broken, it's easier to control them. An atheist can't feel the fulfillment of God because they will always try and fill their nihilistic void by buying things. Government comes from two words, to govern your mental in Latin. But something more nefarious is that the motive may not only be money, because the government prints as much money as it needs, so it has to be a battle of God versus the devil. If you look at Canaanite deities such as Moloch and Baal, I don't know much about it myself. However, I want to point out that you may not believe in these false idols, but with the recent Epstein leaks, it's fair to point out that powerful people who run systems that make up the world, they do believe in this stuff. And if you look closer at the leaks, it's truly sick and evil twisted shit that is going on that involves the torture of children. It is undoubtedly a religious battle of God versus Satan. Here's why. Flat Earth, there are abundant resources and cyclical energy. On a globe, resources are scarce and energy is limited. A flat Earth has no global warming, a globe does. The geocentric model is the center of the universe, and an expanding universe makes us insignificant at a cosmic scale. Religion claims we were created by God, and science claims we evolved from monkeys. A flat Earth has free renewable energy. A global economy relies on theft and taxation. We either have equality under the eye of God, or political discourse. But then again, this is all just a conspiracy, and this video was just meant to give you a good laugh. Like and subscribe, it takes you 2 seconds, but it helps me out more than you can imagine. Love you guys.